This is Mark Medina with the Los Angeles Times. We're presenting a Lakers roundtable, and I feel like this is almost an anniversary edition. You may recall that the series debut of this series, presenting Lakers roundtable, where we interviewed the opposing team's beat writer. The very first guest I had on was the Denver Post beat writer for the Denver Nuggets, Benjamin Hochman, and with the Lakers playing the Nuggets on Thursday, thought I'd bring him back. So, Benjamin, welcome back for the one-year reunion.
A one-year anniversary, but I'll tell you, Mark, the fire's still burning.
Now, you're at Denver Airport, in my understanding. You just came back from a pretty epic game, 144-113 loss to Indiana, where the Pacers made their first 20 shots, what amounted to be a 54-point third quarter. Can you walk me through what is going on in your mind when you're witnessing all this?
I think I maybe got carpal tunnel syndrome making all these exclamation points on my tweets during that game. I'm at Nuggets News, and after each basket, I just, they made 10 in a row, they made 12 in a row, 14. I mean, each one was more unfathomable than the next. And the thing is, Mark, they weren't like layups or dunks. These were 18-foot jumpers or three-pointers or what have you. And they were very difficult shots, and these guys could not miss the Indiana Pacers. And you know how it is with Twitter, and I'm sure all of our listeners here, you follow Twitter, and when something exciting is going on, the Twitterers, that's correct terminology, Twitterer? The person who tweets.
So it is.
The Twitterer has got to be a better way for that to say that. But put 5 exclamation points and 10, and pretty soon, you're just like, I cannot believe what I'm seeing, all caps locks, because it really was a historic thing. Only 3 times in NBA history has a team scored more points in one quarter than the Nuggets allowed last night in Indiana. That was 54.
Yeah, you had indicated in your game story that the sentiment around the Nuggets locker room is like, hey, this is very rare for a team to do this. You pointed out only 3 times in NBA history that's happened, and it seemed like their attitude was, got to flush this one down and forget about it, move on, and refocus for the Lakers game. Having said that, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, Coach Karl did preach to the team after the game, sweep it under the rug. It happens. I think because it was such a major loss, in the third quarter when it was happening, everyone was dismal and down. And by the fourth quarter, they were just almost like laughing it off. And by the post-game locker room, I've never seen a more relaxed post-game locker room. They were like, kind of embarrassed, but they just kind of laughed it off. It's the end of a sort of long road trip, and they're heading home. So I think in a weird way, they have a pretty good state of mind heading into the Lakers game. But I think the interesting thing is, the Lakers also are in a similar situation. Yeah, they won the game against Minnesota, but they weren't themselves in that game. They kind of lollygagged, if you will, like the Durham Bulls in 1989. But now we got them coming into a big game on national TV against a Western Conference rival, so they'll probably bounce back too. So if anything, I'm looking forward to some good competition, Nuggets-Lakers.
We're talking with the Denver Post, Benjamin Hochman, and he heard the Twitter plug before, but I'll get it again. You can follow him at Nuggets News. And you mentioned the Lakers coming off a disappointing win, relatively speaking, against Minnesota. The Nuggets struggles against Indiana, but because of the history of these two teams, you pretty much just throw everything that's been going on so far this season just out the window.
Possibly, and I think you and I have had this debate before whether or not these two are really rivals, or if it's just the Nuggets to see the Lakers as a rival. It's an interesting debate, but I think regardless of how you describe it, whether it's rivals or what have you, the Lakers are on a win streak. They've won 8 in a row. The last time they were doing this well to start a season was 1997-98. I was a senior in high school, so it's pretty impressive what they're doing. And it's a big game. Every year the conference comes down to just a few games, and you want to set a tone against those teams that may be playing you in the playoffs in the later rounds, be it Dallas, be it Oklahoma City, or be it Denver. So I think that the Lakers are going to come out very strong.
Yeah, as you're well aware, you've had a pretty busy, start to the season with just the uncertainty surrounding Carmelo Anthony's future. And I'm sure by the time maybe when we air this, things may have changed. But from what you've been able to gather and what you can say, what's the latest sentiment behind what he's feeling right now as far as his playing future goes?
Well, I talk to Carmelo a lot. I talk to people around him, and of course, I talk to people within the Nuggets and within the NBA. And the sentiment is pretty much the same. Carmelo likes his teammates, and he likes what he has accomplished in Denver, but he wants to take the next step and go to a bigger market and be a champion on the grandest stage, if you will, which is kind of funny because he's not yet even a champion on the Denver stage, if you will. But it is what it is, and the Nuggets are, they're scouting, they're working diligently on trying to find the right deal, the right package to get the most assets for Carmelo Anthony. And I don't know if our listeners know this, but on December 15th, that's the day that summertime free agents can be traded. For instance, the Nuggets signed Al Harrington this summer. They couldn't trade him until December 15th. So when that happens, suddenly the Nuggets have more players they can look into acquiring in a multi-team deal. So that's something to keep our eye on. But, Carmelo's playing pretty well. He's been rebounding at a high level. He had a crap game against the Pacers last night. But other than that, he's been pretty special this year. But yeah, if here in Denver, the fans they're into it. They're cheering for him, but it's almost like a reserve cheering. They don't give 100%. They only give like 93% per cheer because they know that he's not going to be with them for the long term.
Wow, how have you been able to calculate this? I mean, you got these numbers down to a T as far as the metrics are concerned and all that.
I did. Denver University has a crack math department. I sat down with some professors to determine just how you calculate the amount of oomph per cheer. That's the standard, how you say it in mathematical terms, oomph per cheer.
Wow. Well, I mean, what's kind of from the outside looking in, what's kind of impressed some of the writers covering the Lakers, and I think, just nationally is, just given that uncertainty and also the injuries to Chris Anderson, Kenyon Martin, Denver's held up pretty well. I mean, you look at those other losses that they've had, they've all come against good teams, and, they're within single digits. I think it was by 3 to New Orleans, 1 to Dallas, 2 by Chicago. I mean, what do you make of what this team's providing, especially given just everything externally that's surrounded them?
Well, I mean, Coach George Karl is a really good coach, and then we saw how much he meant to the team when they didn't have him in the playoffs last year, and we're seeing how much he means to them as he wedges in guys like Melvin Ely and Gary Forbes into key minutes for the Denver Nuggets, and the makeshift Nuggets with all these injuries, and you mentioned the two big guys, also Nene, the starting center, he's been out for a few games as well with a growing strain. He's back now, but he might not be 100% physically as well, so you got to give the Nuggets credit. Their biggest win was at Dallas in the second game of a back-to-back. That's pretty impressive.
You mentioned shortly a little bit with Al Harrington. What's his addition provided so far?
He starts shooting during Home of the Brave. I mean, this guy is just firing as soon as he can, and it's fun to watch. He's making a lot of these shots, which is good. And it was funny, they won another second game of a back-to-back at Houston, and Harrington basically won them the game with a bunch of three-pointers and such. He took it to a ton of shots, and it was funny. George Karl, after the game, was praising Harrington, but he goes, we're going to have to look at the film and maybe find a middle ground for this, because he really does shoot all the time. It's almost like J.R. Smith when he gets going out there. But Al Harrington is a bigger guy. He's pretty good defender. He's there's a knock on him that he's not a consistent defender, but in some of these Dallas games, he's done a good job against Dirk Nowitzki, and I'm not sure who he'll match up with the Lakers. We can assume maybe an Odom or guys like that size. So keep your eye on that.
Yeah, speaking of defensive matchups, I know you're out here in L.A. a few weeks ago asking, Ron Artest about his matchup with Carmelo and how he sees him as a challenge. And I know we talked about this last year when they defended. Well, what do you expect coming into this matchup as far as that goes?
I mean, for a pure basketball aficionado, not the guy or girl who just tunes in to see dunks on SportsCenter, watching the one-on-one matchup between Ron Artest and Carmelo Anthony will be just a delight. I mean, these guys go at it. We're talking about one of the better defenders in basketball, one of the better scorers in basketball. And there was that game at L.A. Last season, regular season game, that Artest basically took Carmelo out of the game and got Carmelo to make a couple offensive fouls and foul out of the game, and basically Ron's defense won it for the Lakers. And Melo remembers this, there's no question about it. So, again, it's going to be fun to watch.
Again, we're speaking with the Denver Post, Benjamin Hochman, who covers the Denver Nuggets for the paper. And before I let you go, we got to hit on one last topic. You've been devoting a series on your blog at the Denver Post website where you're visiting all the different burger joints. I see you visited Harry Carey's in Chicago recently. What stood out to you so far?
Oh, this has been so much fun. Yeah, I mean, denverpost.com/Nuggets, and you can find our All Things Nuggets blog. And basically, every city I go to, I eat 2 cheeseburgers at different restaurants, and I'm getting really fat. But it's a lot of fun.
How many pounds are you gaining?
No comment. Come on.
That was a little bit too personal.
No, but you'll see. I take a lot of photos at these burger joints, and you can see me progressively getting bigger. And it's a lot of fun, you know. I'm just trying to capture what each city is like. You know, when I was in L.A., I did one from In-N-Out Burger, and I did another blog from Father's Office over there in Santa Monica, and I described the burgers, sure, but I also described kind of the community and quirky things about the restaurants and the cities and such. So it's a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
Well, so far, where does In-N-Out, where does Father's Office rank compared to the other joints that you visited in Chicago, Houston, New Orleans?
Well, both are right up there, my friend. There's no question about it. I'll tell you, the Jazz Burger at Fat Harry's Bar in New Orleans, the Jazz Burger, which, of course, if you did not know, is half burger, half sausage mixed together with shredded cheese and barbecue sauce on top of it, is arguably the best burger I've had on this trip.
Wow. On that note, I think I'm going to probably get something to eat. So I'm going to let you go. I appreciate all your help and perspective on the Nuggets and on where to go to eat to find a good burger.
Hey, take care, man. Always fun being on your program here, on your podcast, or whatever you want to call it.
Lakers Roundtable.
Lakers Roundtable. I love Lakers Roundtable.